My name is Sharon Huey. I graduated in 1971 from the College of Health and Human Performance. I want to give a little history about the Newman Club. John Henry Newman was an educator in Europe in the 1800s. He started his adult life as an Anglican priest, but resigned from that and after a few years of training became a Roman Catholic priest. His concern was about college students going to secular colleges. In the early 1800s, most college kids went to Catholic colleges. And as the time went on and more went to secular colleges, and there was a sentiment of anti-Catholicism in Europe, Newman was concerned about the students that were not being able to practice their religion and be around other students that were Catholics and hoping they would keep the right way going. So they started this Newman Club. The first one was done in 1878 at Oxford. It came to the United States, and the first one was in 1883 at the University of Wisconsin. So that has grown, and my mother was in the Newman Club in the 30s at a college in Atlanta, so she encouraged me to join. And when I came here, I was the only Catholic student from my area, so it was a natural thing for me to join the Newman Club, where I had other people that were my age, and they had my interest, and they also had our faith in common. So it became a home away from home for a lot of people, because students came from all over the state of Florida, some from out of the state, but it was a nice place to be, a nice place to go to, because we all got welcomed when we were there. We also had several students that were other faiths, but they came to the Newman Club because of the fact that we were a good bunch of people, and we did a lot of activities together. We have scrapbooks here from the mid-60s when we were all there that will be donated to the University of Florida Archives, and they're anxious to get them. And also one of our members, Steve Elbert here, digitized all of these. He has made nice notebooks for us that have all these pictures in it, because carrying 4 big albums around like this all the time, a little hard to pass around. So I'm going to pass this to Frank. Frank, give us some highlights of what you enjoyed about the Newman Club.
I'm Frank Jackson, graduated in 1969 at College of Business. I went to the Newman Club because of my roommate, Michael Welch. He and I went to high school together and lived together for a couple of years in South Hall. His mother suggested that we go to the Newman Club for the same reason that Shay said, for the Catholic education and background. Walked in that first day and met a student named Susan Lusk, who became a lifelong friend. And we walked in and we became friends with everybody in that group. It was, as Shay said, it was just an absolutely wonderful group of people who invited everybody. I've got to emphasize what she said about it being a home away from home. It was the kitchen, it was our home living room, it was our TV room, it was our den. We had all those things there. The dorm was the bedroom. Everything else was the Catholic Student Center. I loved it. I love these people that I've been friends with all these years. I'm glad we had these reunions. I'm very pleased to have all these pictures available to see every time we get together, which we have been doing since 1980. It's absolutely wonderful. I thank Shay for doing this year. I think that the welcoming atmosphere, we were every bit the same as fraternities and sororities in what we offered. The intramural sports we were in, the school leagues, the homecoming displays, which we won a few times, and they're listed inside the picture thing. I'm very pleased with it, and I thank you for allowing us to share that with us.
I am Virginia Nardi Zorovich, College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and I was a product of the trimester system, but that never took into account internship, so therefore I graduated in December of 1965. And it's really making my heart go pitter-patter right now to listen to Shay and Frank talk about how welcoming and wonderful it was to come to the Newman Club, because I was like a matriarch of this group that greeted these people and welcomed them to the Newman Club. My history is a little bit different from either of theirs in that my parents did not encourage this at all, getting out to the Newman Club. I probably did not come to the Newman Club at all the first half of my freshman year. And then I met a young man who was actively involved in the Newman Club. And even though he didn't know it, I fell in love with him and I dogged him. And to dog him, I had to be in the Newman Club, and I did then, and I felt the same way that the previous two speakers have felt, is that it did make a wonderful little life, giving an opportunity for doing things, meeting others, and for me, two of the most momentous historical times was I wept through the assassination of President Kennedy with people at the Newman Club. That was where the television was, that we could watch everything. And I also screamed my head off at the Newman Club watching the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show.
My name is Steve Elbert. My history with the Newman Club is a little more complicated, but I started here in 1965. I graduated from Fort Lauderdale High School, and then I was supposed to graduate in 1969, but if you remember, there was a war on in those days, and I was drafted out of school and went off to Vietnam and then returned again in 1971 through 73. Now, during that time, I had two undergraduate studies. One was in German literature, and the other was in chemistry. And I became, a chemical scientist. I moved to another country, was employed there for several years, and then returned again to the University of Florida to study architecture. And so after that, I could go on to a different school for my master's degree. But it's the date of my graduation is hard to pinpoint. And one of the things that I took part in a very serious way was the creation of these scrapbooks. I was the historian of the club. I recorded because I had a camera, and I knew how to develop film and make prints. And I did that in a little closet next to the kitchen in the Newman Center that nobody was using. It was a janitor's closet, but nobody was using it. So I turned it into a dark room.
That's right.
And started taking pictures of every single person all the time. And if you look in the scrapbook, you'll hardly see any pictures of me because I was the one shooting everyone else. And there are a couple of pictures of me in there, but they're few and far between. It was great because in the big room of the Newman Center, which is now some sort of gathering space or a ballroom, if you want to call it that, it was our lounge. That's where everyone was. That's where everyone came to. There were card tables there. There were comfortable sofas. And there was a TV. Now, the TVs weren't very large in those days. They were very small, so we'd gather around them and watch Batman and you name it. It was great fun. And we used to play cards constantly. The game of hearts was a favorite. And sometimes bridge and pinochle and other things, but hearts was the name of the game for everyone. And it was terrific fun. You know, we made a lot of noise. We had events, we had dances, we had outings, and I was always there with my camera, photographing them. And then we put them together in an album and just started piecing it together over time. And it produced a lot of interesting images, people that sometimes, you know, you forget who was that. But then there's always somebody that remembers who it is. And then when we finally left, you know, we all, you know, graduated and left ultimately, the albums sort of disappeared, I think. They were kept in the center, but people came back and they picked away at it and they swiped pictures out of it. And there are a number of places in the album which have blank spots, just have the photo corners on them, you know, but no picture. There are quite a few of those. But and we've managed to replace some of them, but not all of them. And most recently, in fact, it was about in our last gathering here. I didn't come to all the gatherings because I was a very busy person. I ended up being an architect, and you know, I was not always able to come. But the last time I was here in this building, I found a good place in the corridor right outside there to prop up every single page one at a time in an order that Frank had set them in, and with numbers on the top, and take pictures of them in the corridor, full pictures with an iPhone, which turned out to be extraordinarily high quality, and they could be enlarged easily, and then made another album out of them. And this particular version is one which has not only the 1965 through 67, but it also goes back to previous times when none of us were, or most of us weren't here. People that graduated and studied here before us. And they were just filled with the same pictures.
Let me be Vanna.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is like a typical page, you know, and there's subtitles and there's identification of people, and all kinds of things, newspaper articles, and, you know, just assembled together. And this is the digital form of them. Now, see, some were swiped and never found again. They've never turned up. And that's too bad, because that was a disappointment. But what Frank did was at some point he gathered them all together. We consolidated all these in one place, and he covered the pages with a laminating film, so that people couldn't take the pictures anymore. But then we also covered up the blank spots. And then most recently, I took all those photographs that I shot out in the corridor there, and took them home and subjected them all to careful, you know, photographic editing, to make sure that the newspaper articles, which had all turned yellow and became almost illegible, I could in Photoshop, I could make them higher contrast and take out the yellow color, and it would be legible once again. And so that's what gave rise to this collection here. And most recently, I did it again with pictures of our group, basically from 65 through 67. That was the time of the largest duration of our group. No, it went on after I left, you know.
It actually started about 64.
64.
On to 69 and
69.
70 and beyond.
Right.
Even though you weren't there and I wasn't there.
Right.
The group went on.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was choppy as always. You know, those were really mixed up times. They were sort of turbulent, and there was not a continuous, even string of people, you know, here to represent the group. It varied, but anyway, we have this historical data now, and it's been great fun, and I have put everything onto a little USB drive, and I'm handing them out to everyone because you can put on the TV, and project it on a big screen now, and I'm sure that people are going to enjoy it as much as I did.
Hi, my name is Charles Riley. I graduated in 1971 from the University of Florida. The reason I came in 1965, and I was there for 3 years, and I dropped out for 2 years. That's why I graduated in 71. How I got involved was a bit different than most of these people. I had my first year of college. I went to visit friends in one of the school apartments, and a fellow named Ray Fisher was neighbors to them, and I got to know him, and we got to be friends. And so the next year we went to an apartment, and so I moved in with 3 religion again.
Catholics.
Huh?
Catholics.
Catholics, yes. I will forget words, and I have to get assistance sometimes for that. And in my own ignorance, I'm an atheist. Well, that's not why I'm ignorant. But Ray was there, and they were going to have a party with this group. And I thought, that's going to be drinking Cokes and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't go. But I came home early. They were having a good time. They were drinking booze and other stuff. And so that's how I started going with them. And they're all very nice people, and talk nice. And so that's how I got involved with the group. And that's about it.
Would you like to come speak with us, please?
Yeah, sit down next to Charlie.
I thought, Charlie, you were going to tell us some of those other stories you were telling us.
I'm not sure they're good for public consumption.
Name serial number, please.
Yeah.
Name and serial number,
Well, not that
05348689.
college and graduation.
I still remember that. That's my first military
Yeah.
number. My name is Bob Smithers. I came to school in 1964. I tell people that was Steve Spurrier's first year as quarterback, and then they know how old I am. So we got to watch Steve Spurrier. I started with this group. At that time, you came to school and you had convocations in the old Florida gym, and one of them was a religious night. And a group of us went to the Catholic Student Center, and from there I got involved. There was a trip to Lake Wahlberg, and that was a lot of fun. And so that's where I got my start with this group. We had a lot of good times, a lot of championship intramurals, some good football with some of the people here. I spent 4 years here and graduated in 1968 and went through ROTC here. The cadet brigade commander was a gentleman named Bill Carr, who just passed away recently, who was the athletic director at one time at the university. I went in the Army and then came back here to get a master's degree and have stayed here. I've lived in Gainesville now continuously for that amount of time.
A few other thoughts I had with the Student Center. Usually there was 2 male students that lived there at the center that kind of took care of it, made sure it was opened up and closed up and things like that. And 2 of them that lived there at the time I was there was Ron Napolitano and Jim Martin. And they wanted to cook. So I told them I'd cook Monday through Friday. They'd do all the grocery shopping and I'd just show up and I would cook. Except for the days they had TV dinners, I said, I'm not eating them. So I would put their TV dinners in the oven and then I would leave. And also there were 3 of us, so washing dishes was rotating. So every 3rd night I should have washed dishes. Well, they were always changing the rotation schedule. And somehow or another, I ended up washing dishes every other night. It just always happened that way. And the Student Center had a really nice kitchen. And occasionally, we would get into a water battle. And the only problem with water battles is you have to clean it up. And of course, at the time, it was cleanup time. Both Ron and Jim had studying to do. But the amazing thing is the water sprayer on the sink puts out an incredible amount of water. And we had a lot of fun, but I had to do a lot of cleanup. So those are my personal ideas. Do any of y'all have some personal things you'd like to talk about?
The Catholic Student Center at that time, the Newman Club, was a very active organization. There were quite a lot of activities in the Student Center, including a place for us to come and study and meet. There was a ping pong table. We had dances, parties. It was quite the social gathering place as well as a religious community. And one of my memories is of the game of the century that was being played between Notre Dame and Michigan State. In those days, there was one football game on TV on Saturday, and ABC had it, and they hadn't scheduled the Notre Dame-Michigan State game, but they were both undefeated. And so people gathered to watch Notre Dame in the Student Center, except that it was on tape delay. And so there was a big sign on the door that said, "If you know the score, do not come in." And that game famously ended in a tie, and is forever remembered for that. But the memories of the activities at the Catholic Student Center are trips. We took trips to St. Augustine. They were referred to as pilgrimages because we went to some of the Catholic places in St. Augustine as well as some of the other places. We visited state parks, Olino State Park, Goldhead Branch State Park. I remember riding back with Jim Brogle from Goldhead Branch State Park, and I will never do it again. Those were extremely good times, and that's why this group still meets this many years later, because there was such a bond formed between us.
Not only the bond with religion, which was absolutely true, even though we were very ecumenical. The non-Christian members, Christian members from other sects. But it was the family atmosphere. We were a family. This was our home. There weren't a lot of TVs then. I don't think any dorm room that I know of had a TV.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there wasn't any. The student center had the TV. There was just a huge sectional couch that everybody would gather on for the favorite shows of the time. I remember gathering for Star Trek, the original series. The campy Batman, that was there twice, that came twice a week. No?
The monkeys.
And
monkeys.
what other one? There was one,
monkeys.
Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible was another one, the TV series. And we gathered for that.
And the monkeys.
And the monkeys, of course.
Because we would walk like them.
I wasn't there for that one. I don't remember that. I wish I'd have seen the monkey walk.
The
The
monkeys.
monkey.
Well, I remember the show, yeah.
But you don't remember watching it in the student
No, I
center?
do not remember watching it in the student center. I remember going to the student center all the time between classes, as Bob said, the card games, or as Steve said. There were lots of card games going on, and there was a library you could study. There was a section of the student center that had a record player and albums there, LPs. There was a seated section around the fireplace where you could gather. And then there was that huge sectional couch for the TV. And back then, of course, there was a phone booth also. And some of the things as we sit here gathered these last few days, it reminds me of lots of other things about that day also. There were no calculators then. There were not even handheld calculators. There were none. All computations were done on pencil and paper.
Slide rules. Slide
Yeah.
rules.
Yeah, back then.
Yeah. And as for the computers, I remember, and I think I'm right about this, when computers first came out, the university purchased one. It was huge. They put it in the basement of one of these
And the engineering
buildings,
The engineering.
the engineering building. And we had to take a programming class of some sort. You had the 120 punch cards.
Fortran.
Fortran and COBOL were two of the languages.
Fortran was the first.
Yeah. And so, being a freshman at the time, I had to schedule a time to run it on that computer. And being a freshman, I got not the pick of the times. So I had to hit that computer at 3:45 a.m.
It was in great demand.
Yeah. And if one of the cards was wrong, well, there went your program. And you had to go back and redo it and then reschedule, and you know you're going to get another time at 3:45 a.m. or thereabout. That was my introduction to
Only
computers.
if you were a male, because the females weren't allowed out.
That's true too.
Yes.
That's true too.
Our curfew was at 10 o'clock.
That's
And
right.
so
The
would have
ladies,
been-
right.
ladies had a curfew and dress codes, and the gentlemen, South Hall, which is where I live, there was no supervision in South Hall. Absolutely none. There was nobody that manned the desk at the main lobby. All the doors were open. You walk up and down the stairs and go wherever you want, whenever you wanted, 24 hours a day. The young ladies did not have that privilege.
We had to wear dresses when I started. Right, and we could only wear pants or shorts, forget jeans, after 5 o'clock, and you could not walk through the lobby of your dorm if you were in pants. You had to come and go in the other entrances. Fortunately, after my freshman year, that changed, so that was helpful. But you know, the dorm rules didn't change, the curfews and that type of thing didn't change for quite a while. Another aspect of this organization, we made such long-time friendships, as evidenced by these gatherings almost 60 years later. And we also ended up with a lot of long-term marriages that were created through this organization. And all of those that can still come, and we enjoy the camaraderie today as much as we did in the 60s.
Yes, I think that we were actually very ecumenical, but also very tolerant of other religions. We even had a couple of Jewish members who still are in the group, that still come to our reunions, and some people that weren't Catholic at all. And it didn't matter to us. It was about camaraderie. And I can't think of any other organization which engendered a collection of friends that have lasted for almost 60 years. You know, we've all gone through life together, and it's quite satisfying.
Charlie?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on what she was talking about, the rules and stuff that were for women that were not for men at the time. They also had a rule that to be out on the weekends, you had to have a parent sign off on it. And as a parent, I signed for a few people. And so that's kind of, it wasn't totally, followed.
I lived across the street from the St. Augustine Church and the Catholic Student Center. I was in Sled Hall. And Sled Hall, he mentioned no kitchens or anything. There was no air conditioning.
No air conditioning, no, absolutely none.
And
Box fans were what you had.
yeah, and I remember my roommate putting a box fan in the window the night it got 17 degrees and blowing in.
Yeah.
And I came in and he was rolled up in about 8 Air Force blankets.
Yeah, we couldn't have refrigerators, even small refrigerators either.
Yeah.
We couldn't have any of that stuff, absolutely none.
Yeah, but Sled Hall had 3 people to a room. And some of the other areas in Murphy may as well have that too. But I had 2 roommates, one of whom participated with us. He was not Catholic, but he participated with us at the Catholic Student Center, Harry Austin.
Oh,
Yeah.
Harry Austin.
Harry Austin. He's in a couple of the pictures here.
Yes, he is. He is in some of those pictures.
In fact,
Yeah.
big picture of him in one of these, him exclusively. Sled Hall was very convenient to everything, including Florida gym and the football field, so I never missed a basketball game. I tried one night to go to the Catholic Student Center and study for an exam and had the radio on with Otis Boggs, who was a long-time broadcaster for the University of Florida. And when the broadcast came on, I closed my books and went to Florida gym. You just couldn't miss a basketball game. And so it was a very convenient location.
Oh, speaking of sports, we also had flag football. That was something that we had regular games with, and not only amongst ourselves, but with other institutions, you know, like.
And we played against the fraternities.
Against the fraternities, against Miami.
The Miami Newman Club came on.
Yeah,
And
right.
we had a yearly game against them, and there was a girls' game also. They played also.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
against the Newman Club from South Florida, and we had the boys play the boys, the girls play the girls, and there are pictures of that inside the albums also.
Right.
Has the statute of limitations run out on ringer players? Our quarterback was a graduate in graduate school in the graduate at Xavier University, and he did play football at
Yeah,
Xavier.
he just played football. Yeah.
Well, we used to be in what was the football group that we were in? Independence, I think it was.
Independent.
They even let me play one time, and I'm not exactly a sports person. But while I was out there during the time, I went to jump to stop a ball, and the two guys on the other team kind of knocked me down. And for some reason, one of the people from others knocked one of them down the next go-round after I was pulled out. But it was still, I know that doesn't sound right, but it was a mark of kind of how the family was to protect each other and stuff like that.
Lucky for you.
Yeah, really.
Come on, Mike.
Mike Welch, come on, sit down.
Come on down.
Come on down,
There
guy.
it is.
I already mentioned your name once, now you can tell him the truth. I told him, Mike, that we went to the Newman Club based on recommendation from your mother.
That's true.
Which is true, right? Hang on, we got a microphone coming your way.
It was not a recommendation, it was a command. You will go to the Newman Club at the University of Florida. So we did. And fortunate for us, we had a terrific group of people. And we, over time, got to be close friends and have had a lot of good times. We've had several reunions starting about 1980, I believe. And we used to do them every 5 years. And then over time, it kind of dwindled to 3 years. Now I think it's 2 years. As you can see, we're all getting old.
Chronologically gifted.
That's it. That's it. Obviously, you've covered a lot of things about the Newman Club. Probably some old memories, but the memory that kind of sticks with me when you talk Gator football is walking into the swamp at the top row all the way around through the brick gateways with the wrought iron gates. Remember those? Mm-hmm. There was no stands above all the way around, and there was nothing but bleachers in the south end zone.
Right.
So those were some good times. Did you tell them what we wore?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
Okay. Let Frank
You
tell.
go back,
Oh,
wait.
I can
He needs to
start
give
some
his-
of it because-
Bob. He needs to identify
Yeah,
himself.
tell them who you are.
Oh, okay. I'm Mike Welch. I was roommate with Frank Jackson. He'll probably deny it. We had some good times together in South Hall. So go ahead, Frank. You tell them about that.
I can talk about football a little bit because we dressed up for football games. I think they still do at Ole Miss. Yeah, they do. And at that time, Florida Field was built with 32 rows that you came in at ground level, and then they built the West Grandstand, and that's where the alumni were, and they put bleachers on the East Grandstand where the students sat, and it was open air there. So games would start at, my memory is 2 o'clock. I keep hearing some of the football players say 1 o'clock. My memory is 2 o'clock, and you walk out of the stadium at 4:30. But we would dress up with a shirt and tie, and the ladies would dress up, and there would be people on University Avenue and on the street selling corsages. And you would buy a corsage for your lady.
Had the hat?
Oh, we had the straw hat
The straw hat with
With
the
the
ticket
orange-
stubs around the edges.
with the orange and blue band and the ticket stubs around the end. I don't know, mine finally disappeared a few years ago.
Mine disappeared about 3 years ago also. It finally fell apart after all that time.
I had tickets to every game here. I had tickets to the Orange Bowl game for one of the plays I consider the greatest in Gator history.
90, well, how many yards?
I call it the Great Gator Laydown Play.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Because at that time, John Reeves, the Gator quarterback, was a few yards away from breaking the NCAA all-time passing yardage record.
I think they call it the Great Gator Flop.
Oh, no, I don't call it that.
The Gator
Okay.
Flop is what they call it at Miami.
Yeah.
It was for Reeves or for Alvarez?
Florida
I thought it was for
needed to get the
Alvarez.
ball back. Miami was running
That
the
I
ball
don't
into the
remember.
line and not trying to score. So the legend has it that one of the players went over and asked Coach Dickey if they could let him score, and he said yes. And they all, instead of just standing there, flopped on the ground except for one.
All the linemen fell down.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Miami scored. It was University of Miami. That's the big part of this.
Yeah.
In the Orange Bowl. They scored. We got the ball back. Reeves got his yardage. And because it was Miami, I think it's one of the great plays in Florida history.
Yeah.
If it had been anybody else but Miami, I might feel bad, but not Miami.
And you can see it on YouTube.
Yes.
It's available on
Oh,
YouTube.
yes.
Okay, so all these years I've had it wrong because I defer to your football knowledge. That was done for Reeves to set a record. I always thought
John
it was
Reeves.
Carlos Alvarez
Well,
to
Alvarez
receive
was
a
the receiver.
pass.
No, it was for Reeves to set the
Ah,
passing yardage record. And then they all went swimming in Flipper's pool in the east
In
end
the end
zone
zone of the
Orange Bowl.
I
yes.
would like to share.
And we were there that night. A lot of us were there that night.
We were there then.
I would like to share a memory of Florida football, although it wasn't for a home game. I think it was the fall of '64. I think Florida beat Alabama at Alabama.
63.
63?
63, because they had to go back in 64. Bear Bryant made it the homecoming game in 64, and we were lined up to try and kick a field goal to tie the game when time ran out. It was 63 that Dick Kirk ran 42 yards for a touchdown.
Okay, well
And beat
then,
'em.
I'm sorry that my date is wrong.
Oh, but it's a great day.
Because I surely thought I was with my beloved for that game, but apparently not if it was 63. But after we won, and of course we're listening to this on the radio because
Of
that was the
course.
only way in those days. The team was coming home that night by plane to a little dinky airport, whatever the dinky airport was.
The building is still
Gainesville?
there.
Yeah, the building is there. And all the many, not all, obviously, many students found their way to the airport by hook or by crook and stormed the field to welcome the team coming down the stairs. So as a foolish young woman, I thought, oh, this is so cool. And it was, what do you call those things? The stairs down from the plane. I climbed up the outside of these stairs and I'm like hanging. You've never seen this picture of me?
No.
I'm hanging on the side. And time passes and my mother says, I got this clipping from a neighbor who says this person in this shot looks a lot like your daughter, and she gave me the clipping, and there I am hanging on to the side of the stairway down, and here's Coach Ray Graves and I in this picture, which I have. I should make a copy for everybody.
I think that's great.
If I had been there, I would have taken
Oh, you would have.
photographs of it.
Young men away from home, discovering beer,
Among other things.
among other things. It was a dry county, as I remember. Alachua County was a dry county when
yeah.
we came in. We had to go across the line into Marion County to
Ruby
get a
is
six-pack.
Rubies.
Remember it? Rupees. And what kind of beer did we get, Michael?
Old Milwaukee.
Old Milwaukee. And it cost us
79 cents.
No,
The
it's
6-pack.
It was
99 cents, wasn't it?
99 cents.
99 cents a 6-pack.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, 99 cents a 6-pack, which is all we could afford on our budget back then.
That's right. So, also thinking about football, when probably all of us come across a younger Gator, and that can range obviously from teenagers all the way up. I know I have done this in grocery stores and elsewhere. Is I tell them that, yeah, I went to the University of Florida, and when I went there, I said Spurrier was there. But he wasn't the coach, he was the quarterback. And the mouths drop open. So they must think we're quite ancient.
They do.
I won't go a great deal about the football, but I was there, Spurrier was 65. He was, I was freshman, he was the next level. But I forgot what I was going to say. Think back on
He
it.
was a sophomore.
Sophomore, yeah, there was something about, I don't know if you people would be aware of it or not, but back then, when you went to football, you got 2 free tickets. It was part of your paid for going through school. And every person, there were like 20,000 people back then, but every person got 2 tickets for every home game whatsoever. Now, when your parents wanted to come up, they were your date. Or you would set them up with, like, one of the girls would use her ticket, take in your dad, and you take in your mom, whatever you would do. But that was I don't think that's offered nowadays. But.
No, not at all.
No, they have to pay for it.
Also in those days, it was very interesting. We were given student numbers similar to Social Security numbers. Mine was B6942. 69, I guess, is because that was my intended graduation date. I've never forgotten that number. Every form that you filled out had to have that number on it. And it was, does everybody remember what theirs was?
No.
I think mine was a social security number.
Oh, they changed them to Social
66.
Security numbers later.
66.
Oh, that's right. But when we started there, some of us started there, there were only 14,000 students at the University of Florida. And the second time I was there, there were 20,000. So it was a small university.
This sort of predates my days at Florida. I moved to Florida from New York. You can tell I was not raised in the South. I finished high school in Florida 2 years. And at the end of after I graduated, my mother, who was never totally happy in the South, said, "Oh, good, you've graduated from high school. We'll tell your father we want to go back to New York." And I looked at my mother and said, "You can go back to New York. I got accepted at the University of Florida. I'm going to Florida." And of course, in those days, a mother did not leave her child to go off to school. And so she remained in Florida, and I went to the University of Florida and was happy as could be.
Because you were at the Newman Club.
Because I was at the
And you met your
And I
beloved.
met my beloved. And let me, continuing on that line of meeting my beloved, we were probably the first couple out of the people there to be married. We were married December 18th, 1965 at St. Augustine, at that time chapel. Oh, Paul's saying, "Oh my gracious, we're putting out information that shouldn't be." Anyway, where was I going with this? Yes. So since we were by 1966 the only married couple, even though there were parties galore in all these people's homes, because since we had a palatial home, dining room, 2 bedrooms, kitchen, bathroom for $65 a month, uptown compared to some of your rents, although you probably paid just as much because you were in town, whereas we were in suburban Southeast Second Place in down the block from the post office in Gainesville. they would say, oh, party at the Z's, party at the Z's. And they would, enforce a party at our place. And I would love to tell the charade story, but I won't.
Gee, I want to hear it.
Let Mike tell it.
Charades at the old dad, poor dad.
Wait a minute,
Did I miss that party?
You probably did, Steve. Give Mike the microphone.
So back then, there was it a movie or just a song?
It was a play.
It was a play.
It was a play.
And it was entitled,
Don't tell it.
oh,
It had 13 words.
it had 13 words. So during the charades, you had the words, and how many there were, and the very first, now Jenny is on my team, and the very first thing I do is go, oh, and Jenny says,
Oh, Dad, poor Dad, someone's locked you in the closet and I'm feeling so bad. And Mike says,
holy cow.
Yeah, right.
This is for public edification.
because he's like, he never heard of the play and he's like, we're not going to get this one. Nobody's going to know this. Good times.
Back to football.
Oh, my God.
No, you referenced the Alabama game, and I was not here. I was a senior in high school when that happened. And apparently there was a big celebration in the streets of Gainesville.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, the next year, Florida beat Mississippi State in Starkville with 2 field goals in the last 2 minutes, and there was another celebration here. Fires were lit under the traffic lights. At that time, there was a traffic light hanging at 13th Street and University Avenue, and the fire department was called, and the air was let out of their truck's tires. They moved the fire down 13th Street to the next traffic light, and then to the next traffic light. I saw someone carrying people down University Avenue on top of a door that had come off some building. I don't know where. So the football celebrations there were quite good. The palm trees on alongside Buckman Hall make nice torches too.
That would account, Bob, for my confusion with the years, because after the Alabama game, there was celebration in the streets, but it wasn't bonfires. And so but I'm confusing the two of them, because I can remember by 64, I was in mortarboard, and it was like, get these student leaders together and let's figure out what to do about the demonstrations in the streets.
I think of the name. What was the name of the place we used to go? Oh, what was the name of the place we used to go to yearly to entertain the people that were off campus? Sunland.
Oh, Sunland Training Center.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sunland
yes.
Training Center.
Yes. Now it's now Takachali.
Yeah, Sunland Training Center, which was a home for, I don't know what's the proper term, challenged developmentally.
Severely.
Oh, yeah, we used to do,
Shows.
Entertainment.
Yeah, we put on shows there. We had dressed up and did, vaudeville skits and songs and things like that, just to entertain the children there. And it was an absolutely wonderful time. We had a great time doing it. And those pictures are in the album also.
I will say one more thing about football. There were guys that would go over there and play football on the weekends with them sometimes. I was one of them, and I'm terrible at
You
football.
mean on the field itself?
Yeah, around the
Sunland.
there were some of the higher level people, and I can't remember who it was that went, but we went with them.
But you talk about the football on the field, Florida Field was open at that time. We could get on the field. Mike, we used to play on the field. We go over there on the weekend, right across catty corner from South Hall. And you could just get on the field and play ball and throw it around a little bit and have a good time. Which was very, very, very nice indeed. I enjoyed it.
That was good. I'm trying to think of anything else.
Anybody else have anything to say?
Well, let's see, we talked about football,
I have one thing to say.
beer,
Girls.
dress codes.
We're going to talk about girls.
We haven't talked about girls. We had one young lady in the Newman Club, Baptist. And her mother did not want her to join because she was afraid of papal interference with her religion. She thought she was going to get indoctrinated, and she came anyway, and she's just been a longtime member and a dear friend.
Yeah.
She really has. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, I mentioned a fellow named Ray Fisher earlier. And because of my memory, I cannot remember the last name of his wife, Kathy Murphy. When we were at that apartment, Ray and I were both kind of shy in a way. We weren't terribly shy about talking, but we were shy about asking people out. And so the second term, we decided, well, we're going to really work at this. And so I was talking to him about going to ask Kathy out, da-da-da-da-da-da. And he did. And later on, they were married.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of interesting.
And are still married to this day.
Still married to this day.
Yes.
So because she had mentioned about people getting married earlier, so that's why I wanted to bring that in.
So how many couples in the group were married as a result of being in the group?
Gosh,
That's a good question. Paul and Jenny,
Mike and Angela,
Mike and Angela,
Jim and Barb,
Yeah.
Bob and Mary Kay,
Bob, Mary Kay, Tom and Diane,
Ray and Kathy,
Ray and Kathy, Tom and Diane,
Tom and Diane.
Carl and Ellen, Fran and Lee,
John and Sel,
Yeah,
John and Sel.
John and Sel,
Fran Lee and,
Fran Archer and Lee Cunningham, Fran and Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Sue and Bill got married.
Yeah,
Bill
Sue.
Holler and Sue Peace.
Yeah.
No,
I
I was
remember
Bill-
it
Bill
wasn't Sue, but
Vanderwide.
Bill Vanderweyden and Sue
Yeah.
Bill and
Yeah.
Sue.
Okay, that's 10, so.
Yeah.
There's quite a few.
It's a lot.
it's a lot.
And of those, the great majority of them was a lifelong marriage.
Yeah.
The great majority of them was very nice.
Hamp and Val also.
Oh,
Right.
Hamp and Val, how could we forget Hamp and Val,
Yes.
of course.
That's right.
Hamp and Val, thank you,
And Ray
Cindy.
and Bob.
And Fay and Bob, holy cow.
And before that, there was Bob and Bonnie Miller, who you guys don't know,
No.
and what was that guy's name who got the job in Huntsville? Jack and somebody. So, and even though they were before your time, they were our time. So,
Well, too bad that Hampton Elliott isn't here now, because he is a good talker. He was a radio announcer, and he can talk all night and all day and remember every single detail of the past. But unfortunately, he's not with us here today. So
missed his chance.
Did y'all discuss your grouply meetings, like Batman night and all of
Oh,
that?
yeah.
We did, we talked about Batman, Mission Impossible, and Star Trek. And thanks to Ginny, we also talked about the monkeys.
Does anybody else know? Do you remember the monkeys?
Oh, yeah.
I do.
I remember the monkeys,
Well,
but
not just even remembering, but you don't remember watching them at the student center?
I thought they were interesting but silly.
Well, of course.
Well,
I
yeah,
just-
but
You would
it-
walk like
I just
them.
remember Batman.
Well, the bat.
That was a big deal. I
was
mean,
a big
the
deal,
place
yeah.
was crowded when Batman came on.
Yeah.
And right, because there was only one television. We didn't
Yeah.
have televisions everywhere. And in Gainesville, what television could you get anyway?
Yeah, the only television that we had was the one at the center, and the only shows we could get were the few that came over the air from Jacksonville.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
that's right. And Channel 5 in Gainesville existed then as a educational station.
Yeah.
WUFT.
And in our lovely palatial apartment as married couple, we were so excited at the end of a year and a half to get a TV because somebody was moving and they gave us a free TV and we're so excited and we got this TV and we even got the cable company to hook us up and a month later we were gone.
And cable at that time meant that you could get the over-the-air stations from someplace else in Gainesville because you couldn't get them without a big tall antenna in Gainesville. And the weather on that cable was a camera that panned dials that showed the humidity, the temperature, and a couple of things that went back and forth and back and forth. And you had my wife Mary is back there. She had a TV. You had TV in the condo, right?
Condo.
At the duplex. You and Jane.
I don't remember
But
That place is
that
right behind the student center, a couple
yeah,
blocks back.
yeah, and it's a little duplex. And in spite of all of the apartments that have been built back there, that little duplex is still there. But that camera panned back and forth, and they played music as it passed back and forth. That's all you had for a weather channel.
Well, technology in those days was very primitive, really. My parents, as soon as I started at University of Florida, my parents were transferred to Montana. And the only way I had to communicate with them was writing letters. I couldn't make phone calls because they were long distance.
And very expensive.
And very expensive, yeah. And so luckily we had a telephone booth, at the center, but I never used it to call them because I didn't have that many quarters. It was really difficult. And so there was a lot of letter writing going on in those days.
I have to mention one thing with all the football talk that.
Now,
a
wait
very-
a minute,
wait a
you
minute,
just said
a
that was
very-
gonna be the last football.
Well, no,
You
it
mentioned
will,
the
it
monkeys,
will,
he's gonna
will.
mention football.
Let me finish. We forgot a very important sport that no one has brought up yet, and that was ping pong.
Oh,
yeah.
We spent-
Oh, yeah.
There were many a class that was missed to develop our skills. I would say that, and it really was used frequently. There were
Yes.
people
Oh,
all the
every day.
time
All the time.
playing. It was like one of the things, attention getters.
That's right. There were some good players too.
There
Very,
were
very
good
Very
skilled
good
players.
players.
Steve, you
Well,
see this
thank
one
you.
picture you and I playing?
Yeah, right. We were amateurs
Yes, we
by
were.
comparison.
Now, when I graduated, I went in the service. I've been through ROTC and spent 3 years in active duty and came back here to get a master's degree. And this is more about Gainesville than the university. We moved into a trailer park at the corner of Archer Road and 34th Street. I think 34th Street, when I first came here, as it passed the university golf course, was a clay road. It hadn't been paved yet. And 34th Street going north ended at 39th Avenue. It did not go, State Road 121 was not 34th Street. It ended up there. But we came back, and where Butler Plaza sits now was an airfield called Stengel Field that had been used during the war as a training field. And it was still there at that point in the mid-60s, or early 70s, actually, before Butler Plaza was built.
Yeah. He touched on his military service. I want to, kind of mention that because 3 of these gentlemen up here, Michael and Bob and Steve, all served in Vietnam. And we've had 2 members that have passed away because of Agent Orange. And we've got other ones also that served, Ron Napolitano, Tom Eisenhart.
Hamp was in the Navy.
Camp was in the Navy. He worked naval intelligence. He was in D.C. Paul in the Air Force. That's right. Paul was in the Air Force.
He was a navigator. Is that right? Navigator on a B-52.
I think I came across you a couple of times.
Michael, you were interpreting Chinese to English on flights over Southeast Asia. Is that right?
I don't recall.
Can't remember. He can't talk about it yet.
If he
He
tells
still
you,
can't talk
if he
about
tells
it.
you, he'll have to kill you.
Yeah. But he did fly missions. Yes.
Yeah, they were reconnaissance missions and an
Get the
interesting,
microphone, Michael.
an interesting, what do they call that, 7 degrees of separation? Or what is
6
that?
degrees.
6
6
degrees.
degrees.
Okay, well, my math is old now too.
Has nothing to do.
Interestingly enough, when I was in the Air Force and I flew missions out of Kadena Air Force Base in Okinawa, and I was there for 17 months and then a month in Vietnam. And as the days go on the island gets small, and you see people and you think, hey, I bet that's so-and-so that I know from somewhere, and you get close and you find, no, that's not true. And so about 2 weeks before I left, I came across a lieutenant in uniform walking down the street, and I said, no, that's got to be, my mind's not playing a trick this time. So I pulled my car over, got up, and walked up behind him. And of course, not knowing exactly who he might be, I said, excuse me, Lieutenant. And Paul Zorovich turned around, and here we were 10,000 miles from home, and we crossed paths, and that was the third time we crossed paths.
You also crossed with Ron Napolitano in
Oh,
New
yeah.
York.
Well, speaking of Ron, that's right. When I'd finished a mission in Vietnam, and I was in the terminal, and somebody called out my voice, or my name, and look, here's Ron Napolitano. He had just arrived in Cam Bay, and he was going to be assigned wherever, and I don't recall where he ended up, but he did his year in Vietnam also.
I want to, I think we have to mention, we had the times that we had in that center because of the adults that were in charge. And I think Father Gannon deserves a big thing for that.
Yes.
Michael Gannon, who eventually left the priesthood, but he became a professor at the University of Florida and well respected. And Father Gannon, I think, deserves an awful lot for giving us our head to do what we wanted to do, needed to do, and within, general Christianity principles, we did that. And the net result is where we are today, which is very, very high. I just appreciate these people in that situation so much.
I think we should also mention Father Frank Malk, who,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Father Malk, absolutely. They were with another very fine pastor of the Newman Center. In fact, I think Malk was there before Gannon, right?
yes,
Yes.
In between, because wasn't Gannon there first?
Yes.
Gannon was there,
Uh-huh.
then he went away for a while, probably continuing his studies.
yeah.
And it was Halstead, Malk, then the Stoller and Bowman.
Oh, yeah,
And then
Bowman.
Gannon came
Gannon,
after
Father
that.
Gannon came
And
back
then he
because
came
he's,
back.
he's the
That's
one
right.
that started to change to
From Vatican II?
to a parish rather than a.
As opposed to a mission.
Yeah,
Gannon.
yeah.
Gannon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To raise money, his sermons always included bring George to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
Father Malk eventually became the president of St. Leo College,
Yeah.
among other things.
Correct.
And married 3 of those couples we were
Yes,
talking
he
about.
did. Yes, he did.
He came to a few reunions.
Yes.
He did, that's
Yes.
right, yes.
And, well, we might as well say something good about Father Phil Halstead, who, he was only at the Newman Club for maybe 2 years or so. And he went out in glory by taking a bunch of us, John Mancuso, us, not sure Brogel, no, Brogel wouldn't have been in that group, over to a camp on the St. John's River in Green Cove Springs, and he rehabilitated this deserted camp to turn it into a fully functioning camp, and it was a fun adventure for a number of us to go and help put that place in order.
The Mancusos were some we didn't mention, that got married, that were from students. And
I didn't catch.
Yeah, John and
John
Barb.
Mancuso and,
Oh, another couple.
right,
Yeah,
and they're still.
Oh, yeah, John and Barb.
John and
Yes.
Barb.
Another married
Right,
couple,
thank you.
that's right.
Yeah.
Michael, any other stories?
That you can actually tell?
Yeah, I was gonna say, not that we can tell in public, but. No, it's just it was a wonderful experience. A great group of people. Obviously, we had friendships that we've kept to this day. And just a wonderful overall experience. Unfortunately, I bailed out after 2 years, went in service, so I didn't get the benefit of what the rest of these people did that actually went 4 years and graduated. So, but it was a good group of people, long-lasting friends.
Any more memories of the student center? And we used to park cars in the lot behind the student center for football games.
That's right.
Where there are big, tall,
Oh,
I won't use the word ugly, but I should, apartments back there. There were some, the diocese owned the block behind the student center, and there was there were some houses back
Yeah,
there.
there were, I think, 4 houses back
And
there.
then there was the big building that I was told it was a convent at one time. A convent.
Yeah,
at
the
one
one
time.
on the far end,
The one
one
on
on
the
the
end.
back, on the right-hand side, the
Yeah.
farthest one. It was a convent for a while. It was a homeless kitchen for a while. And it was the Newman Club for a while.
Yeah, the Newman Club worked in there. In later years, we went over there.
Yeah.
One of the reunions, we went over there
Yeah,
to talk
yeah,
with them. But there was an unpaved lot behind the student center that we would get out and park cars on football weekends.
Now, that unpaved lot started out to be the house that Jim and Barb lived in. They lived in,
No.
They were behind.
No?
The unpaved lot was on the corner.
Right.
It was on the
Their
corner.
house was
Jim
behind
Bob
that
Was the
lot.
next one
No, that
Two
was
houses down?
2 houses down.
2 houses down?
It was
Okay.
Vivian and Christy, and then Jim and Barb.
Ah, okay.
We're at
Yeah.
the point where we all have failing memories.
No,
that's right.
no,
That's right. That's
that
right.
I remember.
That's right.
That
That's
I
what
remember.
happens when you become chronologically gifted.
What was the name of our
Finished.
place again?
Oh,
We had a lot of
yeah.
the parties and stuff.
Z's, at the Z's.
Well, one thing I know about those homes that I did have right. My last term there, I lived in one. The third one,
The third one what?
the third house, the one next to the far corner.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the one next to the far corner.
There was another house.
That's what I
There
thought.
were
Ed
at least,
Millar and
From house.
Ed and who else? Ed Millar over off of 13th Street.
Oh, there was another one. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But that last house that I lived in, I dropped out one term, came back. Everybody left in '69. I had to stay, and I didn't have a place to live. Father George Kirkpatrick was the assistant pastor at the time, and he allowed me to stay in that house back there. Now the house had already been condemned. You couldn't go upstairs. And there was 2 of us that wanted to live there. I can't remember, the other guy's name was Tom something or other. And he was gonna charge us $15 a month to live there. But there were only 2 places to sleep, the couch in the inside or the cot on the back porch. I lost the bet, the flip. I got the cot on the back porch. And all was in there, just that little screened area underneath the tree. I had the cot, the desk, the chair, and between that and working at McDonald's, I got myself through to graduation.
There you go.
It's called determination.
did you wrap it up?
Well, I
And
like,
Father Kirkpatrick also lent me $75 to get to Jacksonville to start my first job, because I graduated flat broke. And then I paid him back my first paycheck.
Cool.
I want to thank all of our speakers today. We could talk all night long. We've been doing that every couple of years for weekends. I want to thank all of y'all that were attendees listening to all the fun we've had. And I just want to thank the Samuel Proctor's
Oral history program.
Oral History Project for listening to us and it helping us enjoy our almost 60 years together. Thank you very much.
I want to say one more thing, and this is by way of advertising. If it ends up focused on my shirt, this is for the Gator Dugout Club, University of Florida's baseball booster group. So join the Gator Dugout Club.
That was a non-paid commercial.
I live in Gainesville.
Thank you.
What is the time?